sound so excited.
Dude, you would not believe what I've been through this week. It's crazy. Yeah.
Media stuff.
Just everything. It's okay though. It's fun.
How many hugs from Ariel did you block?
I mean, I gave him the stiff arm about 4 times. He's trying to play footsies with me under the table. I'm like, damn, dude, chill. Hasn't been that long.
Chemistry's there, what can you do?
That's my guy, yeah. He's a fun guy.
Big fight field this week, right? Madison Square Garden, you fought there, it has something to it, but this fight in particular, Israel versus Alex, big fight field for you as well?
New York City, man. New York City just brings something extra. I mean, we have been at pay-per-views and we have been at some big fights recently, but not many of them feel like the city. Just the lights, the glitz, the glamour. And then to have a guy like Izzy on the headline, the marquee, he draws eyes, and you know, he just brings a different audience. I saw him on the Pivot the other day with Ryan Clark, right? That massive podcast, massive numbers, and Izzy is trending along some of the biggest stars they had on that podcast. So it's just a big week for the UFC.
Where do you fall into with Israel, right? Because he's a big star, but his last few fights, some would describe as boring. Are you in the camp where it's like, hey, Izzy is having boring fights, but his opponents get in there and they freeze up and do not give him the opportunities he needs to put on the show?
Well, here's the thing, right? And I was talking, I don't know who I was talking to about this, but generally you're telling Izzy's opponents, as an analyst, I'm like, make it boring. Because when you make it boring, you're in the fight. It's that simple. Yoel Romero made it boring, and he lost 3 rounds to 2. Robert Whittaker, in the first, there's never been a more clear indicator of how you should fight Israel Adesanya than Robert Whittaker between fight 1 and fight 2. Kelvin Gastelum is the only person that survived when he's been a bit reckless. And then, by the end of the 5th round, he was about to get finished. So you can only do so much against Adesanya. You have to be patient. You have to be okay with the crowd not really enjoying the fight, because if you do too much, you end up like Robin fight 1, where he got destroyed in 2 rounds. Then in fight 2, he fought more patient, lost 3 rounds to 2. Some people thought he won. I wasn't one of those people. Yoel Romero somehow won 2 rounds. They just did nothing. But then if you fight a lot, you end up like Paulo Costa, right? So it's not on Izzy, it's on the opponents, and the smart opponents need to be in the boring fight against Adesanya, because he's too good a counter striker. He won't lead. If you just kind of stay with Izzy, he will just stand with you.
So if that's the case, right, and you're Alex Pereira, you think, okay, I've got to take a chill, but I've beaten this guy twice, so why wouldn't I guard him? So what do you think Alex is going to do on Saturday?
He's a counter striker himself, right? So it's going to be who can set the trap. I think with Pereira, like, what's important for Alex is winning the moments that aren't necessarily big. So just those big explosive moments in kickboxing, that's where Pereira has won. He knocked him out. But if you look over the entirety of those fights, Adesanya had a lot of success, right? So if you're not winning those in-betweens, you're losing the fight. And I think Alex needs to have made some adjustments to win those moments where big things aren't happening, so that Izzy's not just kind of going away with rounds.
You've got Dustin versus Michael on the card as well, which is, you basically guarantee, you can say you watch that that's going to be a banger. There's this argument about Michael's chin perhaps not being the best, but then he goes out there with Justin Gaethje and is asking him to hit him harder and stuff like that. But do you think he can stand up to what Dustin has to offer, and does he have to wrestle to find success in this fight?
You know what the beauty in that fight is? Let me look at this. I got an interview on my YouTube going live in a little bit, but I'm gonna look at the thumbnail. I always plug my channel, trust me. But this is what Dustin told me yesterday, and I just got to get the correct version. Yes, if Michael Chandler tries to fight him like he did Justin Gaethje, I'm gonna clean him up. Like it's over. He does not think for 1 second Chandler can fight him in the way that he fought Gaethje. He's not saying that the chin will hold up. His rhythm is too good, he believes, for Michael Chandler to stand with him for 15 minutes. So if Dustin is to be believed, Chandler does need to wrestle.
And then you got Michael out here yesterday saying that if he fights him like he did Gaethje, he will break Dustin. Dustin's not necessarily a guy known for breaking those big fights. So is that kind of what we want to see as fans?
It's rooted in Michael's belief that he wants to be here more than Dustin, because he hasn't seen the heights that Dustin has seen in his career. And that's why he thinks he can take him to a place that reminds him, hey man, you've got millions of dollars, right? You've held a portion of the championship. You've done it all. You don't need this. Chandler thinks he can show him that, and that will remind Dustin that he doesn't want to be in there going through what he's gonna have to go through to beat Michael Chandler. It's a fun one also because of all that, right? Like all that stuff, and then they'll look at you, go, oh, but there's no bad blood. But you got to say some pretty disrespectful shit about each other. You know what I'm saying? But that's why it's so good and so fun.
I appreciate you trying to get them to talk shit to each other.
But they did though, like when they were on DC and RC, like, and that would, you know, the 1 second delay on TV sucks, but in that instance, it's pretty good because it makes the argument better. Because they're just interrupting each other over and over again. It was fun.
By the way, I don't know if the moderator is meant to be pissing himself laughing as they're insulting each other.
When Dustin said he said he'd rather sell hot sauce, I was laughing. It was hilarious.
DC right in front of you here, straight ahead.
Oh, okay.
Obviously a lot going on this week, huge fights this weekend, but I did want to get your thoughts on the news on Tuesday. Cain Velasquez,
Yes.
your friend out on bail, just kind of your initial reaction to the whole thing.
I was happy. I was very happy for Cain, for his family, for Michelle, little Cain and Coral. Just, they've been through a lot in the last 8 months as a family. And from Coco having to go to school, at the school that our children go to while her father and her family's going through all that they've gone through, it's very difficult for a teenage girl, you know, so I was very happy for him. And then I got to speak to Cain on yesterday morning. We FaceTimed a little bit, so it was nice to see him laying on the floor with his son, man. Kid stayed home from school and hung out with his father. It was just, it's beautiful.
I know we'd asked you at the time when he was incarcerated, like, you know, how's he doing? And you said, oh, he's holding up all right, but can you kind of describe the relief maybe that comes with what the decision was on Tuesday?
The relief I can explain for me. I could never try to attempt to tell you what that felt like for Cain Velasquez, because I've never been in a situation like he's been in. But for me, the relief was knowing that he gets to go home, you know, because in times, you know, from the phone calls to the visits, he put on a brave face, but I could tell he was hurt, you know, and it hurts us to see him in that situation. And but it's not over yet. But I think for me, the beauty in him getting to go home was also in the words, because I heard the judge say something to a crime of passion. There's a viable defense for that, and I think in that that's a positive thing for us.
Great, thanks, DC. Unrelated to the main event or anything, but this is going to be Frank Edgar's retirement fight
Yes.
Saturday too. So, what are some of the memories you had just being around Frankie both in and out of the octagon?
It's the best, man. Frankie's always been the best. He's like, we always called him the little engine that could, because he was always too small. He never should have been a lightweight champion. But he was a lightweight champion, he fought for the featherweight championship, and now he's a bantamweight. It's probably where he always should have been. And he's always been fun, he's always been exciting, he's always been a gentleman. It's, the curtain comes down on all of us. And I'm just happy that Frankie's making that decision. And he seems like he's very confident and okay with his decision to retire, regardless of the outcome. I asked him that this morning. It was one of those situations where you go out there and you fight well, and you go, you know what, I got more left in me. He goes, no, I'm good. He goes, it's time for me to turn my focus. He said, because if I don't retire now, I can never start something new or the next thing in my life. So good to hear that for Edgar.
When we spoke with Chris at Media Day, he said, well, he respected Frankie and everything he did. His words were, his time is up, and I'm have no remorse sending him into retirement. Is that the right attitude to have for this young fighter?
I mean, you got to be licking your chops when you're looking at a guy on the way out. Because they say when you start talking retirement, one foot's out the door. So, yeah. And plus, Gutierrez lost his UFC debut, and that's it. He's looked like an absolute savage. The guy is a phenomenal striker. He's tremendously tough, and he's got a massive opportunity for him. For all the winning that he's done, I think it speaks to the depth of the bantamweight division that he isn't ranked, because there's not another weight class in the UFC where you could fight as well as Chris has and not be in the top 15.
Yeah, John was in here saying that he's the best unranked bantamweight on this roster right now.
Well, John Anik said it, then take it as word.
And finally for me, Volkanovski obviously wants to go up and challenge your friend Islam. Obviously you're closer to Islam, but I guess what advice would you give to any fighter trying to go up and weight, down and weight to get 2 belts? Something that you accomplished.
Okay, yeah, I did that. Remember that?
Yeah.
I did remember that. You don't change much. You just get ready to fight. You know, the guy's gonna be a little heavier, but Volkanovski did not look small in the octagon whenever he walked in there to challenge Islam. He's shorter. And it may be an illusion because Islam's like at weight, he's in shape, and Volkanovski isn't. You know, he's like out of camp, looking a little bigger. I think he made weight though, didn't he make weight? He still didn't look small. So he's not gonna be undersized, and this dude has more talent, more skill than anyone. But this challenge that he has undertaken is as big as anything that anyone in the UFC has tried to accomplish in terms of becoming a double champion. It'll be tough, but I think that both of these guys are going to make for a fantastic fight.
Dan,
Two more questions, you had one, too.
thank you. You've got such a unique perspective in the cage and on the broadcast team, but Bruce Buffer, talking about New York, everything that just brings so much shine to the UFC presentation. There's nobody like Bruce.
Yeah.
What was it like in the cage before your fight when you heard him do the intro for you or your opponent? And you seem to be one of the guys who feeds off that now in the broadcast booth too. You still kind of get vibed up when he's going and kind of getting fired up in the octagon. What's that like for you as a fighter and as an announcer?
It was awesome, because you dream of that, right? Fighters dream of being in the UFC title fight and having Bruce Buffer, and there's a lot that goes into it because the lights go off and you're standing there with some guy that wants to rip your head off. And Bruce is in there looking as good as any person that's ever dressed in the history of humanity. And he starts to say your name, and my thing was always to get through it, get fired up by it, never give Bruce a fist bump. Kiss it down. At least it used to be. The guy that started to kind of like not lose as much with the fist bump Bruce. For a while, you fist bump Bruce, you lose your title. So I just, that's what I would try to do, but again, the glitz, the glamour, his whole thing is just, it's as UFC comes. And the UFC would not be the same without Bruce Buffer. And so it's a magical moment being in there with him.
Thank you. Real quick, I think you were so hard on yourself with the WWE comments. I thought you looked great. It seemed like you had fun.
No, I had fun. Let me tell you something. I had fun, but I was more suited for the role of going to get shoes from the back. Looked like I worked at Foot Locker. They were like, yo, what do you want to do next? I'm like, let me lose some weight if I'm going to do anything next. And then I'll come back.
Daniel, here at the back, back here, Daniel, I wanted to get your thoughts on Anderson's last fight, and do you think he should keep going even at his age?
Fight did good. But I mean, this is like, Anderson gave away some rounds in the middle there, and people were like, well, he wasn't trying. I'm like, well, that's his MO, right? Anderson was one of those guys that at times does kind of sit back, and in sitting back, he lost some rounds that he probably shouldn't. I thought he did a great job for himself. I thought that he fought hard, he fought well, but the kid's getting better.
Were you impressed with Jake?
I thought Jake did pretty good.
So DC, you had your list yesterday of
That was the best list.
Yeah.
Don't you come at me.
I'm not coming at you at all. I'm just saying, how far down the list so you throw your own name on that?
Let me say something. If they did MMA fighters, I was gonna be on that list.
No one, right?
Yeah, I
No one,
was.
right.
All day long, every day, twice on Sunday. But they told me boxers too. And everybody wants to get mad at me because I put Muhammad Ali first. But it's like the Jordan argument.
Yeah.
It's like LeBron James is the best basketball player of all time, regardless of how many pairs of shoes you sell. But it's because we grew up watching Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to ever compare them. Same thing with Muhammad Ali. Floyd Mayweather is the Kevin Iole, who I respect greatly, did say Sugar Ray Robinson, and I mean, that's true too. But it's like my boy Chris Mad Dog Russo talking about Jerry West as the greatest basketball player of
How
all
far
time.
back you go back? Like, how far back you gonna go?
Yeah, come on.
So DC, I just want to look at this. You're a dad. You're obviously
Yes.
a great friend. You're a father. ESPN host.
Yes.
Podcast host. UFC commentating. Making appearances on WWE and NCAA wrestling.
Yeah, I'm just a kid, man.
Like, when do you sleep, man? I didn't mention coaching wrestling.
Yeah, I don't sleep. Seriously.
That's it.
I sleep for a few hours and I wake up because my mind just doesn't shut off. I'll text like these guys like early in the morning. I'm like, yo, you awake? The only guy awake is this guy. Because he's got like new kids. He's like, I got children, man. I'm up too.
Yeah.
Like, all right, what's up, Zach? But no, I sleep, but like, man, when I get home, like the greatest thing for me, honestly, is when I'm home on a Saturday and I get up on Saturday morning and I like make breakfast for my children and we just lay around watching football. That's like the best because even when I'm home, I'm doing a lot of wrestling stuff and everything else, but I would much rather live the life that I live today than any other, because I'm blessed, I'm lucky. Last question.
Yeah, last question.
All right.
Speaking of wrestling, you did a fantastic job at the NCAA tournament. Bo Nickel obviously came in, he's a big servant.
Yeah.
That's, everyone's making a big deal of it because that's rare. Like a lot of the top American wrestlers, they go out to the national scene. Like Spencer Lee, Yanni,
Yeah.
they're like locks. They go out to the national scene.
Yep.
You have an influence. How do you get these guys to come over to MMA?
We've got a few. We've actually got a few at AKA right now. Kyle Crutchmer, Nick Piccinini, and Jacoby Smith, Oklahoma State Cowboys, right? The mecca of wrestlers turned mixed martial arts fighters is the Cowboys of Oklahoma. But those guys are going to do it, and I'm usually on the front line trying to get them to fight, because I tell them about, not everybody can make the Olympic team. It's impossible. 6 guys go to the Olympics. It's almost an impossible dream. So when they chase that Olympic dream, you put everything on hold. I think right now, coming to MMA for guys like Nick, like Bo Nickel, Bo Nickel, for as good as he was not going to make the Olympic team. And anyone that knows wrestling knows that Bo is going to be number 2 or number 3. So for as phenomenal as he is, for as much as Bo will tell you, that's what makes him so special too, because he'll tell you how great he is. He wasn't beating David Taylor, right? He's not beating Kyle Dake. So it's like, this was his best option. He wasn't beating Jaden Cox. Like, these guys are the best in the world. And Bo is a step behind that right now. I don't know what happened in 4 years, but right now he's not beating those guys. This was a better option for him. And I think with his boxing background, the sky's the limit for this kid. He's going to be as good as anyone that we've seen in a long time come from wrestling.
Thank you.
Time for one more in the back.
DC, right?
All right.
Follow up on your list. You put Habib at the top of your list. Why Habib?
Do you think I'm the only one? Did you see what Yamahovich put? Let me tell you what Yamahovich put. Because everybody want to come at me like I'm wrong. But I'm the person on TV making lists. Why don't you make a list on the first day? All right. Jan said, many call Fedor the greatest fighter of all time. Dana thinks that is John Jones. If I had to choose between Fedor and John Jones, I'd choose Fedor. But in my opinion, Khabib is the best fighter. As of today, I would call Khabib Nurmagomedov the greatest fighter. So why am I so wrong? Everybody wants to talk about I'm biased. I'm going to start wearing a t-shirt that says biased. Because if I was so biased, I wouldn't have a damn job. But it's like, Khabib is as good as they come. He's 29-0. No, dude. I want one of you guys to tell me, if that dude didn't retire, who's going to beat him? Islam? They wouldn't have fought. Because now Islam's the champ, and it seems as though Islam is going to be a guy that can or has the potential to hold the belt. He could have held the belt as long as he wanted to. He could have went to 40-0 if he wanted to.
Can I answer that question?
Yes.
Being a WWE guy, you should know that you should have been squeaking at Islam's. They're going to call out Habib to get that. That's a WWE line.
If
right
you don't
there.
want me booking, you don't want me booking. Because if I was booking, like, yeah, it would be messy. I'm just messy. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys like always. I gotta go to meet. Hey, you know what? You know where I'm going now? You know the stats guy that I was a takedown or that one? I've been called to his office. Came here.
Hey, you get those mat
I'm
returns.
actually kind of scared to go into this meeting now.
DC, you get those mat returns taken off? No more mat returns. No more mat
Am I
returns.
wrong?
That's not a takedown.
They're giving
Wrestling's been around for 200 years.
They're
That's not a
giving
takedown.
Khabib takedowns from mat returns. He's got 22 takedowns in a 15-minute fight. Like, come on.
All right, guys.